What is the difference between a mother and a father and the relationship to their children? You see in this week's parasha, we have a stark difference between how Yaakov and Rachel deal with the issue of barrenness and having children in a way that highlights to me such a profound and painful truth and what empathy and understanding is all about. I want to introduce this by a panel that I shared with Sherri Mandell and Jan Early, speaking to medical professionals and therapists earlier this week. Sherri Mandell said something so painful, but that I've also seen so true over the last 2 years. Sherri said whenever she gets together, her son, Koby Mandell, along with Yosef Ishran, was killed in Iyar in May 2001, bludgeoned to death in a horrific crime in the cave outside Tekoa. In fact, I remember it so clearly because the day of the burial of these boys of Koby was on our beloved son Daniel's brit milah, 24 and a half years ago. But Sherri said something as follows. She said, whenever I get together with other mothers, so many mothers feel who've lost children in this way, they don't want to live. At times they just feel it's too painful. They don't want to live. I must be honest, I got a tremendous fright when I heard a number of the mothers who are mothers of hostages expressing the same thing. We're saying if their children don't return alive, they don't want to live. I got a fright, and I spoke to our officer of the missing persons department, and I said to him, I've been hearing this, what does he think? And he said, Doron, almost every mother says that initially. The pain of just initial thought of their children is simply too much. You see, this is exactly what Rachel says to Yaakov in a different context, but he misunderstands it, seeing it as a father and not as a mother. Rachel, in a great miscommunication, says to Yaakov, she says to him, when she sees that her sister Leah has had 4 children, one after the other, she's feeling particularly bad and vulnerable, and she says to Yaakov, expressing her feelings in a way which perhaps wasn't the most sensitive and very direct, a little bit of demanding and blaming. She says to Yaakov, Yaakov, hava li banim, give me children. And then almost a veiled threat, and she said, ve'im lo, and if you're unable to give me children, meita anochi, I want to die, I'm like a dead person. Yaakov totally misunderstands this, misunderstands the feeling, and a very painful response ensues. But you see, one of the things that I've been sensitive to over the last couple of years, dealing with the loss and the potential, of our son Daniel living, is to see so many mothers, especially of boys in the army, struggling with this. My wife Shelly and so many other mothers, in the sense of seeing that the type of relationship a mother has is so deep, so visceral, so different from a father. Of course, I'm generalizing. It's not true in every case, but in general, there's a lot of truth to it, and I've seen it so many times. You see, I believe the difference is this, that only dawned on me during the course of the last few months. You see, I realized that Daniel, my son, he's not my flesh and blood. He's my seed. I contributed a microscopic seed with DNA content encoded to his existence. Shelly also contributed a microscopic egg towards his existence. But what do mothers generally do? They don't only match the father with a microscopic element of the egg. They contribute their entire body. Literally for 9 months, this organism grows inside their body, becomes one of their limbs, eats, drinks, sleeps, literally grows inside them. It is their flesh, their blood, their sweat, their tears, their muscles, their limbs, their sinews, everything. That's who the child is. The child literally has to have the umbilical cord cut, to be severed in order not to be considered an organ, so to speak, part of the mother. And therefore the connection between a mother and a child is so much deeper. It's not only genetic codes and microscopic content. It's a deep visceral connection that no one can understand if you're not a mother, but I've seen it from close. And therefore, with tremendous pain and empathy, I've seen the difference between my wife and so many of the mother sufferings and many of the fathers, it's different. And I think what this has taught me is to be sensitive. We're different, but we don't have to be the same to empathize. We just need to be able to stand back, hear what's being said, try and see it from their vantage point, to feel it from their vantage point, and to see what it means to be a mother suffering as opposed to a father. Maybe all be able to communicate from the depths of our heart, to feel each other in our differences, and in our differences build the connections of communication, love and empathy, which make life so much more meaningful and beloved. Shabbat Shalom.